All right, Krista, you want to get
Okay,
started?
I'm ready. And I'm not going to do the slide deck. We're just going to leave it the way it is right now. And in case you haven't figured it out, since I've been here talking to you all day long, my name is Krista Landgraf, and I serve as president for the California Association for the Gifted.
And hi, introduction again after the long introduction that Gary gave, but my name is Dr. Nereida Garcia Prado, and I serve as the executive board member and chair of the Equitable Access Committee for the California Association for the Gifted.
And we would love for you to use the chat box located at the bottom of your screen at any course during the next session. You have questions, comments, just want to shout out that it's great, go ahead and put that in the comments below. There's also a Q&A box, so if you have questions, you can put your question in there and we'll address it at the end of the presentation.
Also, participate in CAG by becoming a member today as an individual or a school site. Sign up at www.cagifted.org by clicking on membership. Support CAG by donating as little as $10 at http bit.ly CAG donate. This donation helps fund legislative efforts, webinars throughout the year, and resources for parents, teachers, and administrators. The session will last from 3 to 3:50, and tomorrow sessions will begin at 9 a.m. But from 8:30 to 9, you can join us, or please join us in the CAD Connect for room for coffee chat. Um, so you can access CAD Connect by going to access.cagifted.org and clicking on CAD Connect.
Awesome. Yes, and do donate to CAG or become a member. So I have the honor of introducing Sandi Ishi. It's Sandi Ortez Ishi is a retired administrator and educational consultant. Her career has included preschool, primary education, both gifted and transitional bilingual, developed and led teacher training programs, served as demonstration teacher, GT coordinator, and elementary school principal. Phew. As a gifted, talented leader, she has served as a board member to OCC Gate and CAG. She enjoys her passions as lifelong learner in photography, native plant gardening, travel, and family time in Southern California. So take it away.
Thank you so much, Krista. So I'm going to close the screen so I don't see any faces. Hello, everyone out there. I am so honored to be here today to talk to you about a subject that's important to me, but I will be honest, I have never trained on, but I have experienced. So we're going to talk about, and I use GT as a shortcut for GATE, advanced learner, or that capacity of what we're here today and what CAG supports. So collegiality is what I'll be talking about, and how we can use collegiality to really support all learners. And I'm really honored to be here presenting with CAG. It's been a while because my career has taken different pivots, but this is really very close to my heart, and you will see that today in the presentation. So let's see. I'm going to start with just kind of giving you a little bit more of my background. I did start as a preschool teacher, and then I was a bilingual teacher in LAUSD. From there, I went to Garden Grove, where I was also a bilingual teacher, and then moved into Gifted Ed, where I also became a gate coordinator and served on CAG. I was honored to really work with Dr. Kaplan in the Open Gate program, which was the beginning of depth and complexity in LA in the 90s. Doing Santa Barbara Institutes, both as a trainer and as a demonstration teacher, things that impacted my career for life, whether I was working with Gifted Ed or not. So all of those things, and I retired 4 years ago as a principal, and in the last 4 years I've been subbing as a principal and doing consulting work. So you can kind of see on the screen, those have been my roles throughout the years, and all of these roles have deeply impacted who I am as an educator. So I would really love to, if you guys can go into the chat box right now, because I would like to know where all of you are at. I think you can see me, but I cannot see you. And if you wouldn't mind dropping into the chat just really quickly, what is your role for this coming school year? What district or region in California? I'm really hoping that we have a lot of folks here that are from, Central and Northern California. And I know that my daughter-in-law is from the Paradise area in Chico, and gifted programming really helped her to launch who she is today. So important. So, California is huge, northern, the central, and southern. So I'm hoping that the beauty of Zoom is that we can reach a lot of different folks in lots of different areas, whether you're in a rural or urban or suburban area. So I see we have people from a lot of SoCal folks, and I wonder if there's any rookies in the room. If you may be a veteran teacher but new to gifted ed, and so those are all. Each one of us has something to learn, I'll tell you. So anyway, I see we have a lot of folks from different areas. Yay, that's great. I want you to know that I did prepare this presentation for being in an hour, but I see that I will have 50 minutes. So I am going to be really going through this information quite quickly so that I can get through it. I have a lot of resources for you at the end that you'll be able to access. And I will ask you to have a cell phone ready to go so you can shoot a QR code. And if you have any questions or comments along the way, they will be monitoring that chat box. So go ahead and feel comfortable if you have questions for me or for the team to go ahead and drop it into the chat box. And off we go. Today, I'll be defining what we're doing, and today is really going to be about collegiality and our professional world as a gifted educator. What the concern is, because this was brought to me, that it would be then I will just say that what we're talking about is deeply important to me, and I have lived it in the trenches. So I will be sharing what that concern is and offering you responses that I have utilized over the years, both as an educator, as a trainer, and as a principal, and those resources that have come along the way. So we will go ahead and begin with collegiality. And collegiality is important to understand where we stand. Often this began in the college arena, but really collegiality is that relationship between associates in a profession, in our case, in the educational profession. Colleagues are those explicitly united in a common purpose and respecting one another's ability to work toward that purpose. And everything that I have has research links. And if they're not on this PowerPoint, which you'll get at the end, they will be in the reference page. So the impact of having this positive collegiality, strong and healthy collegial relationships among teachers is regarded as an essential component of school effectiveness and teacher enhancement. And we know that anybody who's been in education for any length of time, that when you're working with your colleagues, it's those relationships help build you up and support you during those tough times and during times of questioning. So today we'll be talking about, as an educator of the gifted, often we will be asked questions by our colleagues that sometimes are not so comfortable. And there are an awful lot of myths for GT, gifted and talented, education, advanced learning, that are out there. And in the end, I will be giving you a PDF that offers some of these through NAGC, giving their definition, where they came from, and how to respond to them. So I'm not going to spend a ton of time on these GT myths, but I do want to share some that I have personally come across and that you may have as well. I'm wondering, and maybe, our folks that are moderating, do we have emoji capability with our folks that are out there listening? Where they can give like an emoji,
Yeah,
thumbs
I'm
up
not
or
sure.
something?
It used to be on Zoom, but I don't think it is anymore.
Okay, all right. Well, I was hoping that if you happen to have come across this and you know where the emoji, you're like Zoom proficient, you can go ahead and give an emoji. But let's go ahead and take a look at these. Let's see if any of these sound familiar to you at all. Gifted students don't need help. They're fine on their own. So maybe that you've heard that in some way or another, in the lounge, in passing, PTA meetings, and in different contexts. So let's see another one. How about, let's see, is it going to go? Oh no. Here we go. Gifted students don't have unique social emotional needs. They're just like everybody else. And of course, we know all of these have broad research base for supporting why it's a myth or a bias or a misconception. So gifted children are great role models in the Gen Ed class. They may help make their classmates smarter by their mere presence. There's another one that has been around a while. Oh, all students are gifted. And this is something that we, I think, in the gifted community have grappled with, because when that baby's born and you hold that baby in your arms, oh my gosh, what a gift, what a blessing. Every single child, absolutely. But what we're talking about here, gifted, is an educational term. And I think this is where there's a little bit of a shift maybe in language and looking at the advanced learner. But yeah, all students are gifted. Well, not in the educational definition. This child can't be gifted. They have a disability. And I think we're moving in a positive direction there with more understanding. Gifted education is elitist. Why should we have gifted ed? And how about this one? Gifted means good grades and good behavior. Not so much. Ask any teacher. Whoops, I don't know why that came up. Okay, let's see. I'm very sorry. Gifted students are easy to spot. They're all alike. And I don't know if my screen is blocking you, but if you can are you able to just see my PowerPoint? I've got certain things blocking. Anyway, so how do we respond? What can our response be? So I have different tips, a few tips that I'm going to be sharing that I've been able to respond to colleagues in support of their understanding of what it is that we do and why we have special programs for gifted students and how it supports them. So I think for my big idea in really helping folks to come along, I love this quote by Daniel Pink. He wrote the book Drive, which is a book on understanding motivation in people. He said, people by their nature seek purpose, a cause greater and more enduring than themselves. And I think that in the field of education, we have a really greater purpose, truly. Our shared purpose, and it's important in going into any difficult conversation where somebody may question, well, why are you doing so much for gifted? Or why do we have a special program for gifted kids? Understanding and coming to the bottom line that we all have. And this is something that in my experience, I came up with. I mean, we could debate and discuss the big idea for education, but this is my big understanding that education leads to positive growth and impact on students' lives. And that is hinged on the understanding that kids will grow in knowledge, grow in thinking ability, thinking skills, problem solving, resolving conflicts, and so on. And also helping students to build those social and civic skills to help them become those successful, productive adults one day in society. All of that stands on the foundation of the support and training that they get from educators, parents, and community. And I'm not talking about one child, I'm talking about all our children who go through the educational system. This is our shared purpose. This is why we're here. And so as a staff member, no matter what your specialty is, we're all there for the same reason. By the way, almost all the photography here is done by me. So if you share any of it, it's, you know, the kids are okay, but I just realize it is my experiences um, and my kids. So looking at that shared purpose, understanding, let's say you have a conflict or you've been questioned by somebody in the lounge. Well, all children, I think we all can come with the understanding that children are just as diverse as the flowers in the field. They are different in so many different ways, whether they're in a specialized class or not, a specialized program or not. They're all different. And we all want a big idea for those students to learn, to grow, to reach their potential. And how is that growth maximized? And it's really maximized by looking at differentiation and supporting them in their learning needs. And that is offering kids productive struggle. Productive struggle matters. And the issue with our Common Core and our general ed is often, well, we do understand with our SPED kids that they need that IEP to alter those goals so that the productive struggle is not so much that it crushes them. However, if our gifted kids don't experience the productive struggle, then they will not attain their potential or reach that growth. So that's for that purpose, gifted learners must also have specialized instruction to offer them that productive struggle so they can reach their potential. And it does take different instruction, which means teacher training. Now, in some, there's a website, and I don't have it. Maybe I'll put it in my link for you. Every single state, and maybe this has been discussed in other trainings, I'm not sure because I haven't attended all of your trainings, but it's important for GATE teachers to know that depending on the state you're in, depends on the legalities of what kind of training need to be offered to children who are identified as gifted. There are actually some states in our union that require IEPs for gifted learners. And then there are other states where it is truly up to the school district. And if the school district feels it's important, they will put money toward that. So, and it's that full range. And there is a website, and I think it's linked through NAGC. I'll find it for you. But where you can see if you're going to move, if you have family in another state, you can see exactly where your state lands. And this is why, you know, I overheard they were talking about joining CAG, and that CAG, I have done lobbying for CAG, and I did it in the early 2000s. It's critical. It's critical the support that the kids get, that the training, because it's not even the kids, it's you, the teachers, because you're the ones that make that greater impact and that purpose in their lives. So that, I think that is where we really need to make sure that we advocate for our kids and for what we're doing with them in the classroom. So that carrying that shared purpose with you as you have conversations is going to be really important. My second tip is understanding the power of story. You may come across negative comments. They may come, and oftentimes those comments come from a place of misunderstanding, bias, or worry about negative impacts on other students or other children. I've even heard it from parents who one child maybe qualifies for GATE and the other doesn't. Colleagues who say, well, why do we need this special program? So in some way or another, and if you're a rookie GATE teacher, a beginning GATE teacher, you will hear these that come along the way. And it's going to be important to be able to respond, to bring them along, to help them understand, because sometimes if you don't understand how to respond, you can get a little defensive about it. So I talk about the power of story because storytelling, and Tim O'Brien is an author, but he talks about, I love this quote, that storytelling is an essential human activity. It's really essential. And the harder the situation, the more essential it is. So I want to talk to you a little bit about the power of story. And sometimes, and I want you to think about the power of story that each of you might have and why you're even involved in gifted ed. So I'm going to start with my story and why do I care so much about this, and why have I spent my career on this? This is my son in first grade. He was a little ball of fire and loved learning. Like in the nursery when he was born, he's the only kid with his eyes open, looking around like, what's going on here? I need to do something. Well, what happened, something dramatically changed in first grade when he came home. Here I am, a full-time teacher, single parent. He comes home and says, Mommy, I hate school. I don't want to go back to school. I'm like, what in the world? I had no idea what was going on. And all I could think is, are you being bullied? Well, what would a parent think? Why don't you want to go to school? Well, to keep the story short, he hated reading. It was torture for him because he was a fluent reader. And the principal at the time, who used to be a reading specialist, she assessed his reading, saw, oh, you're reading way above grade level. So she double promoted him to reading to be in a second grade class. And he came home the first day of that reading, and I'm like, how's it going? What did you think about school today? He said, it was okay. Reading was a lot better. He said, but when I walked in, the kids patted me on the head and said I was a cute little kid. And I'm like, don't know if I want my kid to be the class pet, but he was, he was engaged and no longer wanting to be a first grade dropout. And I was greatly relieved because I had no idea what he was going to do. He was digging in his heels, did not want to go to school. The next year, he ended up going to GATE as a teacher. Now, I had been a teacher for years. I knew nothing about GATE, really. I was a bilingual teacher doing my thing, and I thought, well, oh my gosh, he went into GATE the first day back from GATE. He said, Mom, I love school. I got my son back. As a mom, I got my happy, love learning kid back. And I thought, what in the world is the teacher doing in that classroom that gave me back my son? Because I really didn't know what I was going to do. He was disengaging. So I made it my mission to figure out, and I went to the GATE coordinator and said, I teach bilingual programs. I have a kid in my class who's bored. She's reading at a higher level in Spanish than me. All I know to do is have her help me teach the other kids. And she said, you need to join CAG. You need to learn about gifted ed. And, and then we'll talk. So I did. Like, I immediately joined CAG. I want to know what's happening because to me, it was like magic, whatever happened to my kid. And I thought, I have a kid in my class that was completely disengaged. Parents came to tell me, you know what? Our daughter doesn't like being with the family anymore. When she comes home from school with you, she goes in her room, closes the door, and reads the encyclopedia every day. She doesn't want to be part of the family. I'm like, oh my gosh. Well, anyway, long and short, that kid, the next year, I became a GATE teacher for English language learners. That kid came with me, and that kid had the exact same experience with her parents that I did with my son. The parents came back and said, we got our kid back. She wants to be part of the family again. Instruction matters. It makes a difference in the parents' lives, the family's lives, the kids' lives. Here's my son today. He loves writing. He's an author. He creates languages for a living. He recently did the Superman movie, got his start with Game of Thrones, Dune, and a lot of other language creation. Here he is in our little Strawberry Festival parade with my daughter and my granddaughter. And he is just a little ball of fire that he was, just all grown up now and loving life. And I credit GATE for really giving him that launch. And here I am with that class, my last bilingual class. And I had about 4 or 5 kids from this class that came with me the next year to the English language learner GATE. And that little girl who wanted to just read the encyclopedia today is working in Washington, D.C. as a director of education. And just a happy camper with her family. But I do want to share, again, out of these stories, when people wonder, well, why is this important? It matters in the lives of individual kids that we know. Yes, gifted kids can be at risk. They have the potential of being at risk. And gifted kids must have specialized instructional support to help them learn and grow. But I do want to tell you about one more long-haired young man. This is David on the left, and friends. Sorry, my My earbud is, am I back on? I just want to make sure my sound is good. Okay. I'm not sure. Can I get a heads up, or let me take a look at the chat. My earbuds just died. So I'm hoping that
You're
my
fine.
sound is
You're
good.
fine. You're fine.
I'm fine?
There
Okay.
you Yeah, sorry.
Okay, good. All right. So this is my son David in high school with two of his best friends. Well, that one best friend on the right, he loved technology, was in all these kids grew up in Gate together. This kid loved technology and graduated from UCI with a technology degree and hated working in technology. So I ended up finding out through the grapevine when I was a Gate supervisor that here's David's best friend, one of his best friends, working as an aide with special ed children. And I told him, Ian, you need to come and become a teacher. You've got a BA, get over here. He became a Gate teacher at the site where I was a principal, Allen, last year. And he was phenomenal. He was this quiet little boy. Now, David was rambunctious. He was just quiet and creative as you can imagine. But in the classroom, his kids lit up. His Gate kids lit up. He did things creative beyond creative. And then he came to me when I was Gate supervisor and said, Sandi, I'm going to quit. I don't think I want to be a teacher anymore. I want to start my own business. And I'm like, oh my gosh, Ian. Me being the mom, I said, Ian, I believe in you. Whatever you can do, you've done amazing trainings, but whatever you do, just make sure you have medical insurance and your family's okay. He goes, I will be fine. And he is fine. This is Ian Bird, who developed birdseed.com and just does phenomenal work in the technology realm. And yeah, he's doing okay. But again, what the start that these kids, each unique and needing something different, it gave them their launch. So again, I'm going to ask you, what is your story? I would love, this is just so fascinating. We don't have time to hear your stories, I'm going to say, but it would be amazing if in the chat, if you have a story that gives you that passion for doing what you're doing, spending an August for 3 days in front of a computer, what is it? What do you do that really is important to you that tells your story? And I'm going to march on here. The next tip I'm going to ask you, this one is really to hold, I use the expression holding up a mirror. I have Knold and Marzano. There's a couple books that really are pretty powerful in this regard that you may have read, or if you're an administrator, you may have read. So this is the idea of really being reflective. If you get a hard comment from a parent, from another teacher, from an administrator that has, a critical lens of gifted ed or the program or anything in that regard, really think deeply and check into that message. What is the message asking? What are they really concerned about? Sometimes elitism might be present. It may creep in, we don't know, without our intention, without really looking. So be reflective, be open to listening and questioning if someone questions you about this. And be sure that your gifted programs aren't portraying bias and identification. It's tough. That's a beast to really look at. Building bridges, to seek and serve all of your gifted children that reflects your general population, that's going to be really important. I'm going to share with you in our OCC Gate group, by the way, which Gate coordinators are really welcome. We have people coming from different regions who join us. It's a powerful group, a regional group that we really support one another. And I found it critical when I was a Gate coordinator. They helped, we worked together to build different criteria for assessment and that kind of thing. But we just read this powerful research piece by the Fordham group, building a wider, more diverse pipeline of advanced learners, offering a lot of pulling together a compendium of research, looking how do we seek those underrepresented students and build greater representation. So that's a great read. And again, I will give you the link for that at the end. So again, being really holding up that mirror and being really super reflective about comments that might be hard comments and really holding them close and kind of sitting with it to see, can it inform you as an educator in a different way? So my other tip is really to open the door and share and collaborate. Sometimes we kind of stay in our zone, but really gifted students must have differentiated instructional opportunities so they don't check out, so they do reach their potential. However, all students may have the same opportunities with adjustments as needed. The depth and complexity prompts, they can support EL learners, RSP learners, visual learners. One of the most interesting visits I had back in the early 2000s when depth and complexity was, launching in different areas was in an RSP classroom where they were using the visual nature of the depth and complexity prompts to have kids, do more complex abstract thinking. And for me, as an original EL kid, I love the visual nature of depth and complexity to be able to annotate and research. It's all over my books that when I got my master's. So again, these are things that can help all learners. Definitely an important component of our gifted program. So open or sharing training, ideas, information, lessons with colleagues or strategies to differentiate resources. So all of these things will really open doors, and because sometimes the other teachers, they might be intrigued, so invite them in to share or to do lessons. One quick, I did have, I was a GATE teacher and I had another teacher in Gen Ed who came to me and really concerned. And she said, you know what? I don't even get why this kid in my class is not qualifying for GATE. He's taken the test, he doesn't qualify. I'm telling you, this kid is gifted. And I said, well, why don't I do this? You want to trade classes? I will do a lesson in your class. Tell me who the child is, and I will kick that lesson through the roof. And I'm going to watch him and see how he responds. So I had fun doing a deductive reasoning lesson with her class, introducing them to universal theme, big idea, and really kicked it through the roof on this. And I noticed that I didn't want to lose anybody, and most of the kids were with me and they were fine. But that kid that she had pointed out to me, lights like brain on fire. I'm like, okay, I get it. This kid needs something different. And so we were able to really look at by doing that share, and it intrigued her with, well, what did you do? And I shared. And those kind of collaborations, teacher to teacher, coordinator to teachers, or with your staff, they can be powerful learning opportunities. And again, building bridges. So, and I want to talk a little bit about the spillover effect. And that spillover effect is where and Dr. Kaplan has done a lot of research with this. Renzulli and Reese talk about rising tides lift all ships. So providing all students of all abilities opportunities to experience that advanced differentiated curriculum. So broad-based access, as we said before, can support all students by expanding training, knowledge, to full grade levels or maybe even school-wide. It is a way, as I mentioned before, a way of finding those kids who are underrepresented or underachieving or even twice exceptional students. And that spillover effect can happen in a staff meeting time, maybe informal PD share, or GATE teachers collaborating with the grade level and sharing items with grade level, ways that the Common Core can be up-leveled a notch, something interesting that you're doing in your class, doing those lessons observations as I shared. and school-wide assemblies. And I will say that as a school principal, one of the things that really, really moved my school is that I did school-wide assemblies on individual topics. Without really saying so, I would bring ideas to the staff and say, well, here's our data. Here's our kids. Let's take a look at, and the first thing I did, let's look at these scholarly habits. What habits do you think our kids are really struggling in that would support them? And based on their feedback and really knowing our school community and the kids, we did school-wide targeted assemblies on scholarly habits that they wanted to bring to the full school from kindergarten to sixth grade, same language. We did the same thing with thinking tools. We did the same thing with universal theme, bringing it to the school as a global language and showing the teachers how it can be incorporated across grade levels. I did many of these, and I will say I am super happy to share all of the assemblies that I've done, all of the trainings. If this is something that intrigues you or interests you when we talk about that spillover effect to an entire school community. And I really credit the work and the openness of the staff to the amount of awards. We literally got every award across the book at that school when during my 10 years there. And I really credit the work that the staff did in bringing an up level of rigor to all the students. So, and you'll have my contact information if you're interested in any of that. So my next tip is really, really being a GATE scholar. And yay, you're here. You're building your professional toolkit. So this is doing that professional development is critical. Seeking information that is really research based and being well read, building that professional library, knowing the basics, the GATE basics, so that you can be knowledgeable in being able to advocate and share why this is important. Sharing books, links, papers, and asking admin for professional reading. If you have a great book that you think could be valuable for the whole team, you can ask your admin to purchase that. So I'm just going to share with you kind of a little known fact. For principals, any admin in the crowd, probably not GATE coordinators. I'm going to say I was pretty poor when I was GATE coordinator. But as a principal, you have the whole school budget. There is a line item that is specific for professional reading that's attached to professional development. You can buy a book for your entire team, and then I always did a summer read. And we'd talk about the different books. I'd buy a book and make sure that the whole team got it. And our first couple meetings back, we'd have book talks. And we talk about how we can apply these ideas. So the money is there. It's just often not utilized because a plan has to be written for it. So ask, and you shall receive, hopefully. So again, part of being a scholar of gifted ed and really understanding, I want to share with you, I think we all know about what an elevator pitch is. An elevator pitch where you have you have 2 or 3 minutes and give me a nutshell. What is it about this specialized language that's important? So I'm going to switch that to the recess pitch. We all have we get into conversations at recess, and say someone comes to you with one of these items. Could you do as the GATE teacher, GATE coordinator, representative, or the one who's been assigned the GATE kids for the year, can you speak to this in 2 or 3 minutes? Let's say asynchronous development. Say someone comes to you and says, hey, how can that kid be gifted? He's he's in 3rd grade and he's acting like a 1st grader, or he's in 3rd grade and he's acting like a 6th grader. What is going on here? Well, to be able to speak to, hey, that's actually researched. It's called asynchronous development. Could you do the research pitch? And so for new teachers, for new GATE teachers, we try to make sure that they really have that knowledge base on all of these areas. So do a check-in really quickly on some of these gifted characteristics. Could you speak to that really quickly? What is it? What is a gifted characteristic that I ought to be looking for? Why is choice important to a gifted kid, especially? Compacting, what is that? And is that legal for the Common Core? How can you compact out of something? Well, yeah. And there is, again, research to why it's important. Depth and complexity, what is it? And how is it helpful? Differentiated instruction, big idea. Give it to me in a nutshell. What is that? And what is differentiated instruction for gifted kids? What does that look like? What does it mean? IQ, that's a loaded topic, but I will say one of the ways IQ comes up is when the psychologist comes to me and said, hey, I just assessed someone who who I think is going to qualify for special ed services, and their IQ was through the roof. What do we have? Well, we have a 2E kid. And this is where our connections with helping psychologists understand the field isn't critical as well. So that means that child not only needs special ed services, they need gifted services as well. Overexcitabilities. What is this Dabrowski's thing? It's actually a thing. Most people don't know that it's a thing, but they know the kid who has the tag thing going on, the sensitivity, the hypersensitivity. They're so justice driven, which today with so much that's going on, I'm sure we've got a lot of kids that are really going into crisis with the whole justice, with just wondering, how can we deal with this? Scholarly behaviors. What is a scholarly behavior? What are those habits that should be portrayed by a scholar? And what are special needs for gifted kids? How can gifted kids have special needs? Spillover effect, we just talked about that. And this one, NAGC, did you know they're standards for professional learning for teachers? And they are not mandated, they're recommended. And that's why there should be money open to be able to support teachers, to be able to get the kind of training that you're getting today. So I will, and that is one that I will have a link for you, the actual PDF or link to it. So underachievement, and we talked a little bit, what's the difference between underachievement or underrepresentation? What do those mean? And they certainly do all impact. So all these things are really important to understanding really the premise of what and the power and the importance of gifted education. So again, you being a resource is going to be very important. I don't know how many of you have a link tree, but I do want you to know knowledge gathering and sharing. I'm going to show you how you can do that. And I actually just learned about that from my son, who showed me how to set it up. And it is super easy. If I can do it, anybody in the world can do it. So I'm going to show you how to do that. And that's a way to quickly knowledge gather. Going to those conferences, doing book studies, really promoting the fact that if getting support through your district to be able to get the training. We do have through OCC Gate, our regional organization at CSU Fullerton in November. We have a great, really short conference that is just packed full of super duper practical sessions that you can take straight into your classroom. That's a great one to attend that's coming up, and I'll have the link for you a little later on. And being and joining these organizations, NAGC, you get these two great little magazines, Parenting for High Potential and Teaching for High Potential. They're little articles, but more not super meaty, but great ones that you could make a copy and share with other teachers or with parents. Great resources. SANG, Supporting the Emotional Needs of the Gifted. And if you aren't aware, you should be. James Webb initiated that organization because there was a child, a teenager, who committed suicide, and it was directly involved to his lack of support and his giftedness and what his struggles that he was going through. And he initiated this organization, and it's all about supporting the emotional needs of the gifted. Great resource. And this book is out of print. It was his first book, Guiding the Gifted Child. I buy it whenever I can from Amazon for like $6. It is a super easy read and it covers all of these things in a really basic format. And I loan it more to parents and then even teachers. So it's a good one. CAG, and by the way, it's also fully online on Google Books. CAG, joining CAG, again, the lobbying part, critical for our state because it is not mandated, GATE is not mandated, and providing that professional development is not, and then of course our regional OCC GATE. So networking across specialties at your school site, at your district, in your region, connecting and networking with the fabric of support on site is so important. Networking with new teachers, veteran teachers, IBI, SPED, VAPA, Visual and Performing Arts, RSP, mental health. Just not just being open to offering your resources, but seeking resources from them, because all of those cut across and are a fabric of who our gifted kids are. I will say that in the last school where I was a principal at Allen, I had just an amazing collaboration with our ed specialist, our IBI classified team, and really supporting our kids, our gifted kids' mental health needs. And also, the pandemic created just a different thing for our kids, a different sense of anxiety, a different sense of issues and whatnot. And the skill that IBI and special ed brings to the table is super helpful. And I will say I created a presentation in conjunction with our ed specialist that's on my link tree, that's utilizing the World Cafe to be able to train other GATE teachers. And I'm open to sharing that. That will be on my link tree as well. So my final tip is just always remembering, if whether you are an educator, that you're going to have a group of kids in the fall, or in the summer, in the dead of summer, or if you are leading a group of teachers or staff, or if you're admin, you each make a difference. Our gifted kids, our gifted children, whether they are visible or invisible, they need you. And I say invisible because sometimes they are not evident at the time. And it is through your nurturing and instruction that you discover and you support them in becoming who they are. So your ongoing training, passion, expertise, it's a force. It's a force, and that I am very grateful for. And it's something that our state needs, well, really our nation needs. So what happens in the classroom, in the front lines, is powerful, it's important, but you need that support too, and those connections with your colleagues. So through, grace and generosity, knowledge, and really listening, genuine listening, you can benefit all your children, not just the gifted children that you serve. So I'm going to share with you, if you have I know I had like 50 minutes. So if you have your cell phone, I'm going to ask for you to take a picture of this QR code. And when you take a picture, by the way, this QR code, this is called a link tree. And I'm just going to say, I found this super useful. And if I were a teacher today, I would still have it. And it would be loaded with the stuff that is constantly questions that I would be asked. In this case, the first time I used this link tree beyond a CAG training that I did was with my hairdresser, because she has a little nephew who's twice exceptional. And she wanted to help him so much. And one of the links on this is the links that I developed for parent training for our special needs kids, and some of the links that have supported me in supporting my own child who is twice exceptional. So this is a really handy way to to be able to keep everything. So I'm just going to say that when you can either take a picture of the QR code and go there, or you can go to Linktree, and that Linktree, when you go in your search engine, it's important that you do linktr period EE and then backslash Sandi Ishi. OCC Gate has a Linktree. It would just be backslash OCC Gate. Now, this is a relatively new app, so you may get lucky and you may be able to create one with your actual name on it and not having to come up with something different. But it's very handy. So on this link tree, I have this PowerPoint is on there, along with a resource list with all the hot links for all the research items I mentioned. I included the NAGC definition of what gifted means as a PDF, as well as the myths for gifted debunked. And that what you're seeing right now on the screen is really only a portion of what is on there. There's a lot more on there, including the Fordham research piece, OCC Gate conference link, if you're interested in that. I also included, if you are interested, I know a lot of folks are really interested in the whole language creation thing. So I do include my son's TEDx talk and an article he did, actually a news thing he did for his Dune language. I included the World Cafe PowerPoint. Again, you are welcome to use it. My contact information is on there. If there's something that you heard about that you would like, I'm really, really more than happy to share, because this is all helps our kids, which ultimately helps, it's kind of a ripple effect. And the more we can support and build for our kids, the better we are. So I'm hoping, wishing you all a really great school year. And I don't know if we have any questions from the group or from the organizers.
You do have a question in the Q&A. It's fairly lengthy, but she's basically concerned, and her question is, she's already doing things. Well, it bothered me to hear the story of your son, because there are dozens of students at my school that I believe are exactly in the same position. The focus is not on identified or under-identified or unidentified GATE students. It remains almost singularly on ELLs and those who are behind grade level. GATE is comprised almost exclusively of a few after-school offerings, and of course, over the course of the year. This makes no real difference in the perspective on daily attendance at school. If the teacher doesn't deliberately challenge students, they simply aren't challenged. So she goes on and she says, other than sharing what I'm doing with those who are interested, how can I change the priorities of the school? You were talking about doing assemblies or trainings, but when I'm only a teacher, there has to be buy-in by the administration and the majority of other teachers.
Yeah, there does. There does have to be buy-in, and I'm a lot of administrators don't feel comfortable doing trainings, but I found it was just a powerful change agent for, and some principals just being a trainer is not a thing, but the way I look at it is I'm a teacher, and I don't care whether I'm teaching adults or kids. I'm a teacher, or my school. I'm a teacher, and I believe in empowering teachers. So I would say individual teachers, if that is such a good conversation to have with your admin, I'm just going to say, because admin, their cup is really full. It's big and it's full. So if the power of being able to support and move all kids, including gifted kids, by providing GATE strategies, it's really interesting that you will see these kids grow in more ways than you can imagine by not just always looking at the remedial piece. Um, so again, I am, happy to have an individual conversation with you about it. It's almost like, well, you need to look at your district and your individual um, principal and what your directives are for that. But there's always more that you can do. And honestly, any great administrator really listens to teachers' concerns, and if they have a heart for the kids, and especially if they have great ideas, but you do have to be willing to step up. Like if I was not comfortable presenting and I had a teacher who was willing to do an assembly, guess what? Let's go. And what principals can do, number one, they can either sub for that teacher so that which is tough, especially if you have a behavior problem that comes up, I'm just going to say, or they can hire a sub to cover for you so that you can have classes go through an assembly with you. So I am truly, I want you to know, I have a wealth of assemblies that I have offered to all the principals in our district, and anybody who would like to use them without cost. If you're willing to do it, and I can train you to do that, I really, I don't mind. I think it makes a difference. But again, I would need to have that individual contact because each school site is different. And I feel like the kind of change that happened at my school, it wasn't by accident. We got blue ribbon every single year. We got distinguished school. We got the ESEA award for the year, one of two in the state. And I think that part of the reason is not just because we embedded gate strategies school wide, but I also developed a very strong collaboration with our Boys and Girls Club. And when the kids were there, I supported them as a staff too. And Boys and Girls Club is an outside program that can be powerful, and often it's ignored because it's an extra thing. So again, yeah, go ahead.
So you have another question. Where on Linktree are the slides for professional development training that you did for your school-wide and scholarly habits?
They're not.
Okay.
I'm just going to say you're going to have to contact me directly. Literally, there is no room for that.
Gotcha.
I have so many PowerPoints that I did that include, like I said, just lots of different things. And there's just no room. But I'm open to talking to anybody. So I think I have under my contact information is my personal email. I have a professional email because I consult, but I don't know, at any moment they might take it away. So just use my my email, and and I will contact you directly and talk to you and see what is it that will help you. Because again, it doesn't do any good to have the things if you're going to go school wide, you got to have the principal's buy-in. And I would love to have a conversation with any principal if you want to open the door for that. And I will be supportive of that, of you and that principal. But it might mean you stepping up to be the trainer. So, which is good. Principals have money and they can build those connections. It takes extra work, but if it means their kids are going to grow, they're going to be all over it.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I think that's the questions. Yeah.
Okay.
Nettie?
Yeah. Well, thank you everyone for attending this webinar session featuring Sandi Ishi. As a reminder, your certificate of participation will be emailed to you 1 week after the last day of the event. Our next session will begin tomorrow. Remember to join us for the coffee chat at 8:30. You can learn more about our events by following us on Facebook, X, or Instagram by searching for @CA Gifted. We are so happy were here with us today. We hope you take all the learning from today and put it into practice, and we'll see you tomorrow.
I'm going to add too that in approximately 3 weeks from tomorrow, the videos will be available for you from the sessions. So get that as well. See you all tomorrow,
Okay.
bright and early.
Thank you, everyone.